Yes, sir. Affirmative.
New construction options. Building. Construction complete. New construction options. Building. Construction complete. Building. Construction complete. New construction options. Building.
Reporting.
Training.
Agreed. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Training.
Affirmative. Reporting.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Training.
Very well.
Unit ready.
At once.
Training. Unit ready.
Reporting. At once.
Training.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit
Ready
ready.
and waiting. Agreed. Acknowledged. Agreed. Reporting. Agreed. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. At once. Waiting orders. Very well. Ready and waiting. Well. Very well. Reporting. Agreed. Reporting. At once. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Very well.
Construction complete. New construction options. Building.
Ready and agreed. Agreed. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Very well. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Reporting. At once. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Agreed. Reporting. At once. Yes, sir. At once. Yes, sir. At once. Reporting. Reporting. Affirmative. Reporting. At once. Awaiting orders.
Construction complete.
Affirmative.
New construction options. Building. Unit lost.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Unit lost. Construction complete. Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building. Insufficient funds.
Yes, sir.
Unit ready. Building.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Construction complete. Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready. Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting.
Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative.
Construction
Affirmative.
complete.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Building.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Vehicle acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes,
Unit
sir.
ready.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building.
Reporting.
Construction complete.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Reporting. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged.
Building. Unit
Yes,
ready.
sir. Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Vehicle reporting.
Construction
Acknowledged.
complete.
Yes, sir. Agreed.
Base
Affirmative.
is attack.
Yes, sir.
Reporting.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Vehicle. Acknowledged.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative.
Vehicle. Reporting. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready. Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Waiting orders.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Vehicle. Reporting. Vehicle. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Construction
Affirmative.
complete.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building. Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready. Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Construction
Acknowledged.
complete.
Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Reporting.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Construction complete.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Building. Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Waiting orders.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Unit lost.
Affirmative.
Waiting orders.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Waiting orders. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Very well.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes,
Construction
sir.
complete.
Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged.
Reconstruction options. Building.
Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Vehicle reporting.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Acknowledge.
Building.
Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge.
Unit ready.
Acknowledge.
Building.
Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative.
Construction complete.
Acknowledge. Affirmative.
Primary building
Yes, sir.
selected.
Yes, sir.
Unit
Vehicle reporting.
ready.
Acknowledge.
Building. On hold. Cancel. Building.
Vehicle reporting.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit lost. Unit ready.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready. Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Waiting orders. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Vehicle acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building. Unit
Reporting.
lost.
Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Reporting.
Affirmative.
Lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Waiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge.
Construction complete.
Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge.
Building. Repairing. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledge.
Yes, sir.
Construction complete.
Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Reporting.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged. Agreed.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Vehicle report. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready. Building.
Awaiting
Unit
orders.
ready.
Yes, sir.
Building. Insufficient funds.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. 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 Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Unit lost. Unit lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Reporting.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Construction
Affirmative.
complete.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Vehicle report. Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost. Unit
Acknowledged.
ready.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Insufficient funds.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Waiting
Affirmative.
orders. Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Reporting.
Unit lost.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Of course. Very well.
Building.
Yes, sir. Waiting order.
Lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit
Ready and
ready.
waiting.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost.
Acknowledged. Waiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Reporting.
Acknowledged.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Ready and
Acknowledged.
waiting.
Affirmative.
Building.
Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Affirmative. Vehicle. Report. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir.
Lost.
Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Yes, sir.
ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, sir.
Waiting orders. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building. Unit
Reporting.
lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative.
Ready and waiting.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Waiting
lost.
order. Affirmative. Waiting order.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost.
Waiting
Insufficient
order.
funds.
Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Affirmative.
Unit
Yes, sir.
ready.
Affirmative.
Building. Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost.
Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Reporting.
Building.
Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Reporting.
Vehicle reporting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Awaiting or acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Ready and
Unit
waiting.
ready. Building.
Yes, sir.
Base is under attack.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Lost. Insufficient
Affirmative.
funds.
Vehicle reporting.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Vehicle
Unit
reporting.
ready. Building.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Lost.
Acknowledged.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Yes, sir.
ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Waiting order. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Lost.
Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Very well. Reporting. Yes, sir.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Waiting order. Affirmative.
Unit lost. Unit
Affirmative.
ready. Building.
Waiting order. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Waiting orders. Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Cancel. Building.
Reporting.
Unable to
Affirmative.
comply. Building in
Acknowledged.
progress. Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Waiting order. Affirmative. 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 Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Vehicle. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle. Acknowledged.
Lost.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit lost. Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready. Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost. Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Awaiting
Building.
orders. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Yes, sir.
ready.
Affirmative.
Building. Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Building.
Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Affirmative.
Lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Lost. Unit ready.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit
Ready.
lost.
Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building. Unit
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Waiting orders.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged.
Lost.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Waiting orders.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Ready.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building. Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Waiting
Unit
orders.
ready.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost.
Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Building.
Waiting orders. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Yes, sir.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready. Building.
Awaiting orders.
Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready. Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Affirmative.
Unit lost. Silos.
Awaiting
needed.
orders. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Awaiting order. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Vehicle reporting.
Affirmative.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Vehicle
ready.
acknowledged.
Building.
Vehicle reporting. Waiting order. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready. Building.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Waiting orders.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Reporting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Awaiting order. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative.
Ready and waiting.
Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Ready and waiting.
Building.
Yes, sir. Of course. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit
Ready and waiting.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building. Unit ready. Building.
Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Vehicle
Unit
reporting.
ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready. Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building. Training. On hold. Cancel. Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Building. Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready. Building.
Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Awaiting order. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Awaiting orders.
Orders.
Affirmative.
Unit
Reporting.